Have you heard of Thomas Tenland? He's one of the best backgammon players in the world, and he joins me in this video for an exclusive interview. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you'd like to see in future videos, and I'll work on it. If you love backgammon, you can become a member of this channel, giving you exclusive access to the most popular videos. My book, Backgammon Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is also in the description. Again, in this video, it's my great pleasure to be conducting an interview with Thomas Tenland. By way of introduction, for those who follow backgammon, he needs no introduction. One of the best players in the world, Grandmaster level, one of the top players on the BMAB rankings, and certainly an accomplished player. Welcome, my friend Thomas Tenland.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate you accommodating me. I know there's a time difference, so scheduling is difficult, but I'm happy to have you. I'm excited to discuss a lot about backgammon. I'd like to start with a little biographical information for the viewers. Please tell us where you were born and raised.
Yeah, I was born in the south of Sweden, a city called Ystad. I've basically grown up in Malmö, Sweden, and lived there for the vast majority of my life.
For those that are not familiar with Swedish geography like myself, is that anywhere near perhaps Stockholm?
It's very, very near Copenhagen.
Oh,
It's
Copenhagen.
it's in the southwest of Sweden. Yeah.
Very good. And where did you do your education? There?
In Lund, which is a university city, yeah, the one closest to Malmö, you could say, one of the oldest universities in at least Sweden and maybe Europe. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you study in school?
uh, Corporate finance and financial economics.
And is that related to the work that you do? What kind of work do you do now?
It is. It is. I am. I work in the financial industry with the yeah quantitative risk management, you can say. So yeah,
Is that
certainly relates to it.
is that kind of a 9 to 5 job?
It is. It is. I'm fortunate to only work Monday through Wednesday, but those days it is 9 to 5, more or less.
Wow,
Yeah.
so it's a 4 day weekend every weekend.
Right. I'm a lucky guy.
I remember when I was in college, during one of the semesters, I scheduled all my classes on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so I had a similar schedule, 4 consecutive days off.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. And you're not married and you don't have kids, is that correct?
That's correct. I live with my girlfriend and dog, but no kids.
Okay,
And
that's why you look so young.
I suppose
So, what kinds of hobbies and interests do you have outside of backgammon, of course?
a lot of sports. A local soccer team in Malmö, I'm a great fan of. Also doing some sports myself, a little bit of running, a little bit of sport called paddle. I don't know how big it is in the States, but it's like a version of tennis. Um, yeah.
We have pickleball, which is similar to tennis on a smaller court with a different type of racket.
Yeah, yeah. So you could say if tennis is for the young guys and pickleball is for the old guys, maybe paddle comes somewhere in between, yeah?
Sports is really good for your health and for your mind, especially like when you're playing backgammon or other sports. It helps you focus. Do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, mind certainly gets fresh after exercising, and yeah, that's definitely true. I think for me, I've become most aware of it when I have not exercised in a while, and then I exercise for the first time in like several months. Then I really feel a difference. Yeah, so you're
Have
right.
you have you ever noticed like your play is different when you do get exercise versus you don't?
It's I think that's really a tough one for me in general, how different things affect my play, because it's so hard to tell. uh, Is this just a feeling in my body? Am I actually playing better? Uh, is my PR good just because I had some easy decisions, etc.? So I think it's very hard to tell, but I'd like to think that it is beneficial. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
agree.
feel fresher mentally somehow.
Yeah, yeah, you do. I do personally. And for me, also, one of the things I've noticed is sleep is really important for me, and I think for people in general.
Yeah.
And it's a little easy for me to sleep to see this because with my two kids, I don't get a lot of sleep. So I notice like the times when I don't get a lot of sleep, I miss plays that are just like so obvious.
Right. I think this also, to me, that's like a pretty common reason for playing a bit poorly sometimes at the later stages of a tournament. I think sometimes uh, that's a much bigger issue than coping with pressure and and so on. I mean, they usually go together near the end of a tournament, right?
Right, right. Because it's just like fatigue.
Yeah, yeah. Fatigue is a that's a really big issue in backgammon. Once you come past a certain point, I mean, at least as I see it, it's there's no big difference between being 100% fully rested and being 85%. I don't feel a big difference in performance, but when it goes below a certain threshold, you really start to perform worse.
Right, right. That's certainly true. I've seen it also. Top players when they're sick, when they have like a flu or something like that, you can tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when did you first get into backgammon? How did you get into backgammon?
Well, I learned the game from my girlfriend at the time in my early 20s. Um, didn't think much about backgammon after playing those few games, and then somehow I just felt like learning more about it a few years later. Um, Maybe it's because you heard some talk about it. Backgammon had pretty decent exposure at that point in time because of the poker boom, and sometimes they would say that player so and so had a background in backgammon, and you know. So, but somehow I wanted to learn more about it and picked up a couple books. Yeah, and went from there.
Great. Yeah. What books did you read first?
Well, I mean, I just bought like two or three books that I found online. Um, one of them was really poor. I don't remember what it was called. It's not one of the ones people would know. But one of them was McGrill's backgammon. That was by far the best one of them. Yeah.
Of course, I think I remember around probably the same time that you're talking about. I first started reading about backgammon, and McGreal's book was one of the first ones that I read, and I've read it multiple times, and it's a Bible of backgammon, and it still stands the test of time for the most part. So it's an outstanding book.
Yeah, and I think also at the level I was at that point, it was brilliant because it went through all of these very basic concepts that you need to know. So
Right, right. And I remember that time when there was the poker boom. I was playing backgammon and I started playing a little poker because everyone was playing poker. Uh, and
yeah,
I know there are a lot of poker players that play backgammon. Some of the big ones like a long time ago, like Jason Lester, Eric Seidel, but nowadays like Gus Hansen, and I know like David Wells plays both right now.
yeah, I've seen on Facebook that Steniak seems to be playing a lot of
Oh
poker as
yeah,
well.
he's yeah. A lot of them are playing it's because I think it's similar in terms of like probabilities and it's a game. But th there seems to be a lot more money in poker than in backgammon.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Well, that was one of the things on my list of topics to discuss. How to popularize backgammon and how to get more money in backgammon. I wanted to ask you, do you have any thoughts about how to grow backgammon?
Ooh, yeah, that is a tough one. I'm really not an expert in that, but I suppose it has to do with the solution has to do with the internet, with social media, um, with marketing and exposure. I think that's I don't know what needs to be done, but I think that the problem, quote unquote, is that backgammon doesn't get enough exposure. I mean, because I think if the same number of players tried out, backgammon, poker, and chess, let's say, I don't see a reason why backgammon should be significantly less popular. I have to say, um, but yeah, but how that should be done in the best possible way, I don't know. But it seems at least that the Backgammon Galaxy are reaching a lot of people with their
Yeah.
product, and yeah, I just hope that Backgammon can get some more exposure. I don't know how. I have to say that.
Yeah, I remember when the poker boom started, it was televised, and then they created the whole cam so you can see the players' cards. Otherwise, watching poker would be very boring. So that was a good innovation. I think like exposure is good too, and all the social media, like that's part of the reason why I created this YouTube channel to promote it and get more exposure. Um, so
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, just the fact that there are a certain number of enthusiastic players uh, should grow the game to some extent. I mean, I think each and every player that has a great passion for the game does help grow it, even without really doing much, because that sort of passion is contagious. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we're not many enough at this point, but yeah.
I feel like there are many people that play like all around the world. There are like millions of people, but it's maybe not as popularized for a variety of reasons. Do you play any other games, poker, chess, or anything else?
I have played poker in the past, during the poker boom, but not anymore. No, I don't really play any other games. I don't. Not
Yeah,
now. I
I,
have played poker, like I said.
I was talking to someone, I was talking to Dirk Sheeman because he used to play poker. And I told him I prefer backgammon because poker is very slow in the sense that, you're not playing most of the hands, you're just sitting there and waiting. But backgammon, there's a move. That's
That's for sure. It's like heads up poker, you could say. I mean, in
right,
a
right.
way. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's part of what I enjoy about backgammon. But what do you enjoy about backgammon yourself?
Yeah, I enjoy many things about it, actually. I mean, I think one thing that's really great about backgammon is that it always makes sense to do your best. I mean, in very many other sports and games, uh, maybe not poker necessarily, but otherwise, I mean, compared to, let's say, tennis or chess, um, the outcome is essentially certain in very many matches. Whereas in backgammon, even if you're playing someone much worse than you or much better than you, um, playing a little bit better is going to help your chances. So I think that's a really nice thing about it, and that unpredictability. Um, but when it comes to the actual experience of playing, I think there are also many nice things about it. One thing is that I enjoy learning. I enjoy understanding something I didn't understand in the past. Um, but I also enjoy analyzing a problem and see if whether you can solve it with the tools that you have. And I also find it pretty pretty beautiful game with the patterns and the way the checkers are moving and flowing through over the board, etc. So yeah, can't really put my finger on a specific thing, but more like many things I love about the game.
Yeah, I agree. I remember I saw an interview with Paul McGreal one time, of course, before he passed. He said it's a perfect combination of skill and luck, which is nice. And I'm similar in terms of the mathematical analysis. You see all these charts and diagrams that I sit down and study for hours, but it's over everyone else's head.
Yeah, well, it's also like but it's pretty cool that you can take basically either approach to the game as well. You can take the approach that I'm going to be so scientific about it, I'm going to improve to the very, to the limit and play as absolutely well as I can, whereas some other guy may take a different approach and you're still only 55-45 to win against him, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. But the better you are, the more you can increase your odds of winning. And speaking of improving, obviously you're one of the top players in the world. So a lot of people are trying to improve. Can you tell us how you started improving? I know you said you started with some books, but to get to the level where you're at, what are the things that you've done?
Yeah, I think the most central part and something that is virtually essential is to get a bot and work with the bot to to one extent or the other, in one way or the other. But that's something you have to do. I would say it's I believe it's impossible to become really good without doing that. Um, but other than that, I think it's a little bit hard for me to say specifically what was most efficient, you know, as a way of using my time to get better. I mean, I've read several books, I've taken many backgammon lessons, talked to better players, uh, tried to research things myself in XG, etc. And sometimes it's difficult um, to say what was it that made you get better and what did not have an impact, and because I did many things at the same time, and yeah, sometimes it's not so easy to know what worked and what didn't work. But one way or the other, I think you have to try to increase your understanding of the game, increase your skill at reading the game. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of different things. So it's a multimodal approach to improving. You mentioned you took lessons. Did you have any teachers that people would know?
Yeah. I took most of my lessons with Jacob Rice Stick,
Yeah.
and he was a great teacher and taught me many things.
Yeah, Stick Rice has done a lot. I think a lot of people don't know about his forums, the BG Online. Um, that was very popular. And then I think he stopped a little bit during COVID, but now he's trying to bring it back.
Yeah. Great forums for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. And you said you also read some books. Do you have any books that you would recommend to the viewers who are trying to improve?
Yeah, there are many books I like. So you said specifically for improving, because I mean, even there, it's a matter of definition what a good book is, but the one that will improve your game the most, um, yeah, it depends a bit on your level, I would say. But one book that at least helped me in the past was Modern Backgammon. It's a pretty old book now
Yes, from Bill Roberti. That was
Bill
like him.
Roberti. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that book was excellent, and also another book by Bill Roberti that helped me very early on was the 501 essential backgammon problems. I think, I mean, it is not the best book ever in terms of, the quality of every single piece of analysis. It's good. The analysis is good. But I think the strength of the book is you get to try out many different things in backgammon and get a few hints and tips for many different types of scenarios that are, likely to come up. So I liked it because of that. But quality wise, I think the best books, in my opinion, are probably Michihito Kageyama's books and Dirk Schieman's books, sorry, and also Knack Ballard's and Paul Weaver's
Oh yeah.
books. Yeah, and then there are Marty Storer's. Yeah, I don't know. There are so many good backgammon books as well. And just because I don't mention someone, I'm not criticizing that person. I'm probably just forgetting about that person's
Right.
books. But yeah, many good books out there, and I just recommend reading them all, to be honest.
Yeah, I think, of course, you also previously mentioned Paul McGreal, but I think we would also be remiss if we didn't mention people like Kit Woolsey, Walter
Yeah,
Trice,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Mark
course,
Olson. Yeah.
of course. I read Backgammon Boot Camp by Walter Trice pretty early on. I think it's an excellent book as well. Kit Woolsey, read several of his books, great books as well. So yeah, 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 I fully agree. And just like I said before, authors not mentioned by me are probably more forgotten than
Yeah, yeah.
criticized by me.
You did mention Dirk Schieman's book, and like his first one was The Theory of Backgammon, which I really enjoyed. And I believe there was a quote on the back cover by you, but it's very technical. There's a lot of math, and a lot of people find it a little bit too complicated, but you and I love it.
Right. Yeah, I think it's in, or like I wrote at that point. I don't recall exactly what I wrote, but I think it's an extremely extremely good piece of work. It's very accurate. It's thorough, and explains things as I see it pretty well. But like you said, they are also pretty technical, and if you're to say something negative about it, is perhaps that it's not essential to become a great backgammon player. It isn't, but as I see it, it can help you understand the dynamics behind the complicated doubling cube decisions, and you can become a better player as a result of that. As I see it, I I I I, I think it's just an excellent book, but I would not list it as the most essential books for getting good at backgammon. That's a different thing, and there I would not list it. But I think it is still one of the best backgammon books, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I also learned a lot about like doubling decisions and especially match play, things like gammon value and just scores in a match, which is kind of like a math game. You're trying to win the match by getting to exactly zero away. So you learn things like I don't memorize all the gammon values and things like that, but I know if you're four away, the gammon value on a two cube is elevated regardless of the opponent's score. And like once you start thinking of it that way, it really helps with especially with cube decisions because that varies significantly from a match to a money game.
Yeah, and also just for money games, I think Dirk presented some pretty useful, actually, formulae that maybe got lost in the noise for some readers. But for example, how to adjust your take point when your opponent is going to win more gammons than you, or vice versa, and how to do that in a simple way, and very accurate way as well. So yeah, in my opinion, one of the best books. I stand by that.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I actually had the privilege of proofreading his new book, called To Hit or Not to Hit, the first volume. And that's another outstanding book for a much broader audience, and a lot of people are really loving that one.
Yeah, excellent book.
Yeah,
Absolutely
have you had a
deserves.
chance to read it yet? I know it's a
I
newer.
read it. Yeah, it's
It's
great.
good. It's good. It's good. People get it. It's a lot easier. There's not a lot of technical stuff in the math. Um, okay, and you said you studied, you improved with the bot, and that's what a lot of people do. But I wanted to ask you some questions about that, because there are a lot of people that say different things. So one question people ask is, how do you actually learn from a bot? Because it does not actually tell you anything, it just gives you the result. So how do you actually do the learning part?
Yeah. Mm, I would say to begin with, just the fact that it gives you the result is huge. I mean, but yeah, I think, for example, you can have some sort of hypothesis. What might be the reason that the bot says play B is better than my play? Okay, and given my hypothesis, if I produce a variant and change the position a little bit, does that support my theory or does it not? And if it doesn't, maybe I need to come up with a new theory and test that one. And so that's one way to do it with the variants. Another way to do it is to play from the position. I'll have to admit I have not done that a lot, but I recognize that it's a very useful tool as well to play out the specific position and make sure you understand what's going on. And yeah, finally, the dice distribution that XG has is a very, very useful tool, I would say, because yeah, that way, by using that, you may figure out that actually the only reason the other play is better is because it leaves him a very poor 6-3, for example. So I think that is also a very, very useful tool. And also, uh, when you work with the dice distribution a little bit, after some time, you start to think like that a little bit more, at least. I mean, it's very, very difficult to do it excellently, but you can think about how the roles play a little bit more, and that will improve your game as well.
I agree. I do the position modification all the time. So like I remember when I was writing my book, I had like hundreds of variants of like the same thing, moving a checker one pip here and there, and like tables of that, and that really helps. And the dice distribution, I feel like I agree, because backgammon, very much like life, is you don't know what's going to happen next, but you can arrange your assets and liabilities to increase the likelihood that you will win. So when you look at the upcoming 36 possible rolls, or 21 unique ones in the next roll, or the 1296 in the next two roll sequences, or 441 unique ones, you start thinking that way. So I feel that's helped a lot. And I've also developed, you've seen my dice distribution tool, and that just has helped me get to the next level. So good. I feel like that's really important, because a lot of people ask how you can learn, and this is a really good way to learn. The other question, and I feel it's like, people maybe do not understand things, but a lot of people are skeptical about the bots. They say, "Oh, like if you play against the XG, it cheats." What do you say to them?
Well, if it cheats, at least it's must be excellent at figuring out what roles are good. So, but no, I don't know. Uh, I guess in theory it would have some incentive to cheat just to prove that it's good and things like that. But I think realistically, I have no reason to believe that XG is cheating, and I can at least say that of all the people I know that let's put it like this, are good at mimicking XG or whatever you want to call it, all of them have excellent backgammon results. So yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
think I think it's difficult to make a case for that XG is cheating. I mean, of course, you can always make a case just by saying something completely without any evidence, but I would say yeah, it's a difficult case to make, I believe.
And there are some people that, you do an extended rollout and they say, oh no, XG is wrong.
Yeah, and but I mean, in all fairness, if you go through all possible backgammon positions, there are positions that I will myself say XG is wrong, because there are some, you could say, bugs in XG, and that is perfectly true. Um, but I think some people make the mistake of interpreting that as XG in general being poor. Yeah, but yeah, it's anyone can have their opinion, but it's not my opinion, at least.
It's also, I feel like some people maybe have a misunderstanding. So, like, I'll ask people, like people will do props, like you start with this roll or something like that. And some of the people would prefer an opening 6-1 over an opening 3-1.
Yeah, go ahead. You can, anytime you play against me and you roll an opening 3-1, I let you play 6-1. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, very good. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about tournaments. You've played in a number of tournaments, right?
I have, yeah.
And which are the ones that you've enjoyed the most?
Yeah, if we exclude the part of the ones that I've been most lucky, because that is always a significant factor. But I think, for example, in the States, I really liked San Antonio, because I think the location is great in the city, and in also a really nice city. And I think the New Jersey or New York tournament is great as well for similar reasons. It's an excellent location. I think as far as the backgammon tournament itself, I think all the major U.S. tournaments I've been to have been excellent. So and the tournament room has been great, etc. There hasn't been too much to say about that, but I think those locations are super attractive for me.
What about
Um,
outside the United States?
yeah, I think Monte Carlos definitely has its, yeah, it has a certain prestige to it. There's no way around it. And at least up until the past couple of years, the Merit Open in Cyprus was an absolute must. I wasn't there this year, so I'm not sure what directions it's taken this year, uh, but at least for very many years, that was an absolute must. This tournament as well. Yeah.
I feel like your schedule is a little bit more amenable to traveling to tournaments, given you have Thursday and Friday off, and most tournaments go from Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah, you would almost think it's not a coincidence. Yeah.
Is that something you actually intended on?
Yeah, it is for sure. Haven't been able to use it this past year as I've been working on my book, but definitely it's been a strong reason for that for sure.
That's a you just gave me a very good idea.
I'm glad.
I have to talk to my boss about it.
Yeah,
You only have one boss because you're not married. It's the
I have two bosses here at home as well.
oh
Our
oh yeah
dog, my dog and girlfriend.
yeah. So yeah, of course you've won many tournaments. What would you say has been the most memorable tournament victory or experience?
Um, yeah, I think the I won the Swedish Open in 2022. That was I would say that is my most memorable tournament win. I don't have that many wins, but yeah, that was my most memorable win. Yeah, it was in my home country, and also that specific year it happened to have a super strong field, and yeah, I was fortunate to win that time, and it was it felt great, I have to say.
That's fantastic. I feel like you go to different tournaments and sometimes the fields are stronger than others. But what tournaments do you think consistently have the strongest fields? Of course, the World Championship in Monte Carlo because everyone goes there. But what other tournaments would you say have the strongest fields?
um, yeah, I mean, there, I guess there's also one aspect is also if you're talking about how difficult it is to win, then the number of participants is pretty huge as well. If we're only talking about the average quality of the players, then and also, I mean, I assume we remove some PR competitions, etc. Then I would say probably the individual event at the World Team Championships. That would be the strongest field if you just go by the average playing strength. Just because all the national team players are playing and almost no one else. So that would probably be my answer.
And you mentioned the PR aspect. What do you think about these competitions where there's a PR base? I mean, there's the BMAB where there's a winner just based on wins and losses, and then you get your PR as well separately. But then I really like, what Mark Olson has created with the UBC, where you get points for both PR and winning. So you really have to be a good player to win that tournament. What are your thoughts about that sort of format?
I think is brilliant. I really support the idea, but at the same time, I'm also against the idea I heard from some people is to make this like standard in, in backgammon.
Oh,
I don't think that's a good idea. But as a special event that occurs, in their case, I guess 2 or 3 times per year. Um, I think it's a brilliant idea, and something that's super exciting to play and watch. So yeah, I'm all for it.
yeah, I agree. I really love watching those tournaments. I think the biggest challenge is like getting the top players from around the world to be able to all make it at the same time from different parts of the world. Have you ever played in the UBC yourself?
Yeah, I played in the first contender tournament in Gibraltar in 2000, I believe 20. Uh, yeah, did not do my best, um, but but yeah, I think it's like you said, is very very difficult to get all the best players in the world to play at the same time for several reasons. I mean, relatively few of them are full time professionals. And also, there is too little to gain, to be honest. I mean, um, it actually it costs money to fly to a tournament and play, and when you're playing against strong players for almost no money, uh, that is a factor, I believe.
Yeah,
And,
it's more for
and
prestige.
that's true, but it's uh, yeah, it is. I understand that it's challenging to get all the best to be present under the current circumstances. I mean, if for whatever reason the winner got $100,000, yeah, a lot more would be present, I can assure you. So I mean, it is very difficult there, but I mean they've had tremendous success as I see it. Regardless, I mean, the contender has always been a really 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 great player, and so has the champion. So even if some of the best in the world have been missing at times. I mean, so far it hasn't had an impact on the grand final, you can say, or not a big impact at least. So yeah, tremendous tournament for sure.
I really love the UBC tournament. The biggest challenge for me is that, usually it's in Europe, so I have to wake up very early to watch it live, and then I don't get sleep for the whole week.
Well, sooner or later, maybe it will take place in the States. Then you're in luck.
But but that just speaks to the fantastic production quality. You have an outstanding stream, you have great commentators, everything is fantastic.
For sure, for sure.
And
Yeah, yeah, brilliant.
it's one of the things I've noticed because I've been doing streaming myself and these videos, and there's a difference when you're watching a match live versus watching it pre-recorded. Specifically now on YouTube, they have the live chat feature, so everybody's talking with each other and you're interacting with the commentators, and you don't have that opportunity if you're watching it replayed.
True, true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. So I know you had mentioned your upcoming book a few times, so I wanted to take the opportunity to discuss that. So tell us first the topic and what made you decide to write a book in the first place.
Yeah, actually, I was approached at one point, and I was asked whether I wanted to write a booklet on the third role.
Booklet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're laughing. Uh, but yeah, and I was a little bit hesitant at first because I was like, yeah, if I'm gonna write a booklet, it's probably gonna take some time because I want to do it well, and yeah. So, but then in the end, okay, I started writing, but then I realized I'll need to extend it a bit, um, and so I pushed my estimated my ETA, so to speak, forward, and then I realized, well, I want to include a lot more actually. So then I pushed it even further forward. But anyway, I don't know if I did mention it's on the third row, right?
Right.
Yeah. So and the reason I'm writing about that is really that it's the topic that I've studied the most, I would say, of anything in backgammon. At least if we're talking about more specific topics, yeah. So I feel like I have something to contribute, and I want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's great. It kind of reminded me of when I was writing my my book. I started writing a little bit, but it ended up being like, oh, I remember we said it was like 700 pages and I had to cut it down. But I don't know if you well, I'm sure you know there have been many books nowadays about the early game. Like Michi wrote a good one, Bill Roberti wrote one, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but I actually wrote a book on like early game. I never formally published it because there are so many other books out there. But one of the things I tell people is if you're going to study a single position in backgammon, it behooves you to study a position that occurs more common than others. And the most common position in backgammon is the opening position because it occurs in every single game. Now, the first roll is pretty straightforward. You could kind of memorize that. Second roll is more complicated, of course, because there are many more, and there've been a lot of them. But now you have the third roll, which will be outstanding. I know, like in chess, they have so many books on openings and things like that. So I think this is going to be outstanding. I guess the reason why I chose the topic of back games for my book is because there has never really been a whole book on that, so it kind of filled a gap there. But this one's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, there are many books out there on the opening. That's for sure.
But I saw like some of your manuscript. It's going to be fantastic. I know it's not easy to write a book. How long does it take?
Yeah, time will tell. But it's there are many aspects to it for me, because one thing is, before I even start writing a chapter, I do a lot of analysis, rollouts, lot of work before I even start writing, and then there's also the part that I'm not a native speaker of English. That matters. I mean, had I been writing in Swedish, I believe it would have been a little bit faster. Not the analysis part, not those things, but the writing part would have been faster. Um, but yeah, I don't know. For me it takes a long time, that's for sure. But I would say that there are other books that could have written faster. uh, the reason it's taking me so long is because I'm also spending very much time on analysis. Yeah.
Right, right. I one time I think the first book I ever wrote, what wasn't really a book because it didn't have any text or prose, but it was like before all this was available, I did rollouts for all the second rolls and I compiled them into this book that's like 300 pages. Now that all that's readily available. But yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. So how do you kind of categorize like the format of or like the chapters, like the topics and things like that? How did you decide to do one thing, or what did you do?
Yeah, so the format of the book in general is that uh, there are some positions that get analyzed. There are some discussions, but at the end, the gist of each chapter is a rule, like something you can rely on to be true, regarding how you should play in certain situations. So kind of sort of like Michi's proverbs, but even more specific, you could say. Uh, it addresses even more specific situations, but it's sort of similar. Um, and then, so that's like one of the categorizations, simply rule by rule by rule by rule. And then I also categorized all of the third roles in general in three main categories, and that's um, the ones where your opponent rolled doubles. I mean, the person that rolled the second roll, he rolled doubles. The ones where he did not roll doubles, but he hit you. And finally, the ones where none of that happened. He didn't roll doubles, he didn't hit you. Now, what do you do? Yeah. So, those are like the three very, very big, of course, categories. Yeah.
And I find it's useful, like you mentioned, the position modification. I know some of them, you compared a third roll with a similar situation of a second roll.
Yeah. Yeah. That's It's pretty nice. That's something you can do already when you study the second role. You can compare it to the first role. Yeah, but I think that's a good method. Yeah, you can see what changed and try to understand why.
And one of the things, another thing that I feel is really important is like when you study the third role or the second role or any point in the early game, you learn these concepts, these strategies, these tactics that can help you later on in the game, in the middle game, where the error might be much larger.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
I
mean,
rem
especially on like the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh row. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember when I was memorizing the second rules, people said, "Oh, why do you make such a big deal of it? There's only like a few millipoints of a difference between the top play and the second play." But this is part of the reason why.
Yeah, and I mean if you want to be extremely serious about it, then just knowing the pros and cons of each place, even when they're close, is very, very useful, actually.
Right, right. I also was involved a very, very little bit. I don't know if you know, Knack Ballard is doing this project where he's doing huge rollouts. Like the standard rollouts are 3-ply, and then you could go to 4-ply, but he was doing like an XGR plus rollout, which takes like a month, even on a fast computer, to like analyze these little things. I think that's fantastic, but it's a lot of work.
Right. Yeah, I did it on my computer for the 5-1 opening actually. And it took something like what you said. It's a very strong computer, and it took like a month or something. Yeah.
Was yours for money or was it at a score?
Oh, just a money game. Yeah. Just wanted to see XG Roller Plus Plus, XG Roller Plus Plus rollout since such rollouts already existed for the 4-1 and 2-1. I wanted to see if it had an impact on the 5-1. Of course, it didn't. I just spent a month.
And then you can't use that computer during the time.
Right.
And but a DMP 5-1 you slot, right?
At DMP, yeah, I think it's pretty close, but I think slotting wins by a hair. Yeah.
And I remember like when I was studying the second rolls, when the opponent opens with an opening 6-5, and then you look at a 2-1, 4-1, or a 5-1, the only time you're supposed to slot is with a 2-1 for money.
Yeah. But there again,
They're close.
it may depend what rollout, etc. Yeah, but yeah, they're close. Yeah.
Yeah, those were like based on the old, I believe it was either the first edition of XG or it was like a snowy rollout.
Yeah, yeah,
That's how long ago it was.
yeah. But anyhow, I think it's very important to know whether it's. I mean, to know it's close. That's all. That's really super important, as I see it.
Right. And also, as you mentioned, why it's close.
Yeah, yeah,
So very good. I wanted to give you an opportunity to discuss a few positions from the book, hopefully to as a preview for the viewers. Let me share this with you. Are you able to see this now?
yeah.
So we're going to look at a few positions here, and we're looking at them on the beautiful Gammoner X22 Paul McGreal Memorial Board, which I use exclusively in the Grandmaster series and with Grandmasters when they're on the channel. The XG board is made by Rain. He makes beautiful XG boards. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. I've selected these two colors, the blue and yellow, to match the colors of your Swedish flag. So we're playing the blue at the bottom, the opponent the yellow at the top. But by way of introduction, so this is a second roll that we're going to look at. The first roll, yellow opens with a 5-1, excuse me, and plays 13, 8, 24, 23. And now you have a 5-5. So this is the position, one of the positions we'll look at. And then the contrasting position or the variant is going to be a third roll where you open with a 6-5 running back, one of the back checkers. And now the opponent rolls up 5-1, playing the same play like this. And now you have a double 5. So we'll go to the first position, which is the second roll, where the opponent rolls a 5-1, and now you have a double 5. So please tell us your thoughts about this.
Yeah. I mean, I think most players just blindly blitz on the second roll when the opponent split his back checkers, and this is like this is a strategy that works. It's just always produces the best play, and that is the case here as well. But making the 3-point and not the ace point is uh, yeah, for all practical purposes, just as good. Um, and I mean, you could see that it doesn't leave a shot, or well, the blitzing play doesn't leave a direct shot either, but it leaves several shots. Um, so I think that is, I mean, if you make it very simple, that is one of the reasons. And I mean, you could also say that even if he fans after the blitzing play, you still don't have a cube yet because he will be well placed on his 23 point with his last with his back checker, and you don't really need a tempo either. So there are some arguments you can make. But at the end of the day, the outcome is that they're super close in
So
this
we'll look
position.
at this. This is the analysis, and it shows this. Also, have you done a DMP rollout of this one? I'm sure there's
I
one.
I
This,
haven't, but the breakdown of numbers suggests that making the 3 point would be best at DMP. Is that what you're suggesting as
I
well?
think so. I think I've seen because I believe they've probably done the rollouts. But
Yeah,
here's the
yeah.
analysis. Yeah, so you can see on the left-hand side, the blitzing play is like this, which results in this position. And that's virtually tied within 5 millipoints of just making the 3 point from the 13 point. And then actually, this one is looks a little awkward because it results in this position that uh, Paul Weaver calls this the naked ace point, where you just have the ace point, and now you have a stack on the 8 point. So that's a little awkward. Okay. Do you have any further comments about this one before we move to the second position?
Well, the important thing I want to emphasize is that we it's nice to know that actually the 3 point comes very close to being right in this position, even though blitzing uh, blindly works. Yeah.
Yes, and this is another thing, like I tell people, like some of the things they can learn from XG. When you look at these numbers, it tells you the play and the equity, but beneath it, it tells you your wins, your gammons, your backgammons, and that of the opponent. So you can see obviously the blitzing play will win more gammons, but slightly fewer games. Okay, so good. Now we'll continue, and now we'll look at the second position. So this is the third roll where you open with a 6-5, then the opponent rolls a 5-1 splitting, and now you have a double five. So tell us about this one, please.
Yeah, so here um, the blitzing play looks very similar to what it looks like in the previous position we took a look at. So the blitzing play has about as much merit as it did in that position. You can you can make an argument for having efficient cubes when he fans uh, uh, or some technicalities, but but generally speaking, not too big of a difference in the quality of the blitzing play. However, making the 3 point has become much more attractive because it now unstacks a 6 checker stack on the midpoint, whereas in the previous position it was a 5 checker stack. So unstacking from 6 to 4 checkers on the midpoint is going to be a lot more helpful than unstacking from 5 to 3 checkers. So because of that, making the 3 point has become a much more attractive play than it was in the previous position. So as a result, it will now be by far the best play because they used to be very close and blitzing hasn't really improved, or at least only by a very little bit. And yeah, we can see them making the 3 point improve by a lot, and it's by far the best play now. Or you could say it is at least by far better than blitzing. The comparison to the play of moving to the 8 and ace points is not as easy to make, but you can see that it's still a little bit better, and it has become even more better, you can say, but not by a lot.
Yes, these stacks are what Michi calls mountains, and they need to be unstacked. And one of the things that I not necessarily learned, but it was like re-emphasized when I read Bill Reverdy's recent 3 volume series about playing the openings is that in the opening position itself, I kind of categorize it as like major liabilities and minor liabilities. I feel like the major liabilities for both players are the two back checkers that need to be escaped. The secondary or minor liabilities are the two stacks on the midpoint and 6 point that need to be developed. So that's part of the reason why with an opening 2-1 you unstack both points. And this one you unstack that point and make a constructive one like this without leaving any blots. And then this awkward one turns out to be second, which is interesting. And then the blitzing like this.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that the second best play here, it has the advantage over the blitzing play, again, that it unstacks the midpoint. So I mean that is why it gains so much ground compared to the previous position. Um,
Yes, and I feel like here getting hit costs a little bit more because, as we mentioned, like escaping the back checkers is a primary liability. Once you've escaped one, you really don't want to leave a shot to get it sent back, so because that kind of defeats the purpose of the opening roll of the 6-5.
yeah, it may be. I mean, like I said, it's analyzing the blitzing move. It is not super clear that it got better or worse. It also, if he fans now, we have a nice cube, so that's also a good thing. Um, uh, I don't feel like the blitzing play necessarily got a lot worse. I think the reason is almost own entirely that the 3 point making play got better. But you're right. I mean, there are certain uh, small changes regarding the blitzing play as well, but not big changes.
And the cube that you mentioned is very interesting because I actually learned about cube impact in Dirk Schieman's book. Um, Here you cannot see it because this is a PowerPoint, but if you're on XG and you hover over a play, of course you will see the cubeful equity, but if you hover over it, you'll also see the cubeless equity. And the difference between those two values tells you how much power you have in terms of owning the cube. So that will tell you how close you are to get to doubling soon. Do you ever use that?
Yeah, from time to time, for sure. I mean, um, I think it can sometimes be enlightening to check the cubeless equities just to see whether, I mean, after you've looked at the breakdown of wins, gammons, backgammons, sometimes you can suspect that, oh, wait a minute, isn't isn't the cubeless equity actually higher for the worst play? And then you take a look and it turns out to be the case, and then you know it's because of the cube. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
but
one of the things I learned is like when you have access to the cube, you may make a checker play, which will increase the likelihood of you being able to double next.
true.
Okay, so let's see. I think that was it for that one. Um, were there any other comments about those positions that you wanted to make?
Uh, no, not really. Uh, I think we covered most of what we were, what I have to say about him. Yeah,
Okay, the final question about the book is a question everybody always asks, and I think you're unable to answer it, but when will it be released and available?
yeah. I That is correct. I am unable to answer it, but I think I've at least become better at estimating how long it will take because now it is well defined what it will what it implies that the book is done because in the past it continuously grew larger as a project, and that is a big reason it has been pushed forward. But realistically, I will be done with the script in the summer of 2025, and then there will be whatever processing of that is needed before it becomes a book to be printed, and we'll see how long that takes. But yeah, I hope that it'll be done near the end of 2025. But I've learned not to expect that it will be done any sooner than that. That's for sure.
Yeah, these things happen. I know that's the case. We had Michi is working on a book on the 5 point match, and he gave a seminar back in June in Los Angeles. He said it will be released in November of 24, and he said, unfortunately, it's not ready yet. And I think Art Benjamin is working on a book on racing doubles, and that he has like a 5-year timeline. But you were generous enough to share a few pages of your book, which is outstanding with me. How much did you actually complete in terms of the writing? Like, where are you at? Are there more chapters that you need to work on, or what's the
Oh
state?
yeah, there are several chapters that I need to work on. I think yeah, like I said before, these three main big categories of positions, I have completed two of them, and I have written, let's say, 25% of the third one. So
Well, that's good.
yeah, so you can calculate from there. Then there needs to be an introduction. There needs to be uh, uh, the cover needs to be perfected, whatever, you know. So
Right.
I know it's going to take a lot of time, but the truth is I've written the I mean the bigger part of the script for sure.
Yeah. Good, good. Well, we're very excited about that. The other thing, other topic that I wanted to address with you is one of the things that I personally find has grown backgammon, especially like with COVID, people have been playing online and the formation of these online forums. Specifically, we have these ones on Facebook, and you're very generous to contribute a lot to that. I've really enjoyed those. I wanted to hear what are your thoughts about those types of forums, and we mentioned BG Online as well.
Oh, I think it's great for the game. So you can see that. I mean, you mentioned Sticks forums in the past. They are excellent. I mean, I remember reading so many extremely insightful comments from Nack Ballard, for instance. Um, that I mean, some of his comments there are like you you should really be paying $100 per comment from Nack Ballard on those forums. But I think the good thing about these Facebook groups compared to, for instance, Sticks forums is that they somehow reach a wider audience. I mean, I believe that Sticks forums are excellent, but reach a relatively uh, after all, small set of nerds, you could say. Whereas, I mean, including myself, obviously,
And me.
but yeah, and you, whereas on Facebook, there 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 are new players and that get more and more interested and find those forums, etc. So I think it's great for growing the game and yeah, uh, I
I
think
agree
it's a good thing.
specifically about Facebook. It's an outstanding platform because a lot of people are on there anyway, and you can read their other social media like Instagram, for example. It's really good, but Instagram I feel is more visual. The focus is more on the image, and a little less on the text and discussion. So there's a lot more you can analyze on Facebook, I feel, and it's really given me an opportunity to meet friends like yourself and other people all around the world that I would otherwise have never had the opportunity. So, I do need to take this opportunity to thank people like Stick Rice, Mark Olson, all these people that have been doing this. It's just fantastic in terms of growing the game.
For sure, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So that's been an outstanding discussion about all different things. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of your book. Do you have any final comments before we conclude the video?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Alex, for having me, and you're doing an awesome job with your YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. I mean, you of course have an open invitation to return at your convenience. One of the reasons when I first started the YouTube channel was to try to promote my book, but it's kind of expanded because like I enjoy it. It's given me an opportunity to meet people face to face, at least virtually. It helps promote the game. I've created a number of initiatives to help promote the game specifically for underrepresented demographics. So I try to get women and youth to come on it. I try to get all sorts of different things, and it's having the top players like yourself, it's a privilege for me to just be speaking with you because otherwise I would never have that opportunity. So I have to express my gratitude to you and the many others. So thank you. Very good. So we'll go ahead and conclude the video and we'll see you again soon, Thomas. Thank you to the viewers for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe and you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, what you like to see in future videos, and I'll work on it. And if you love backgammon, you can become a member of this channel, giving you exclusive access to the most popular videos. Again, my book, Backgammon Backgame Strategies, is available. There's a link in the description to where you can get it. And if you're interested in lessons, please contact me via email. My email address is also in the description. I look forward to seeing you in future videos. And until then, keep rolling your dice.